The most talked about player of this entire offseason made a decision in the final hours of Sunday night that left the entire football world silent, my friend. And it did not happen on a practice field, in a negotiating room, or at a press conference. It happened on a phone screen, with a single click, on the eve of the most important day of this entire offseason. When a player who spent years using social media as a microphone to communicate frustrations, celebrations, and provocations in a way that made him one of the most followed personalities in all of the NFL suddenly disappears from the platform without a single word of explanation. The message is louder and clearer than any public statement could ever be. The trade is coming. What A.J. Brown did last night, what the insiders confirmed about the current state of negotiations with the Patriots, and what an anonymous general manager's statement about Howie Roseman's mindset reveals about how all of this is going to end in the next few hours. You are going to understand all of it right here. If you are a true Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because this is the final chapter of one of the longest and most emotional stories of the 2026 offseason. For months, the name that dominated every conversation about the Eagles, every salary cap analysis, every trade rumor, every player statement at OTAs, was technically still on the franchise's roster, while everyone knew his story in Philadelphia had already ended. He skipped OTAs. He did not show up to the wedding his quarterback did not attend either. He watched his relationship with Jalen Hurts be described publicly as functional and professional in a piece from The Athletic that said everything it needed to say without needing to say anything explicitly. And then, on Sunday night, on the eve of June 1st, the date the entire football world had been waiting for, he deleted his account on X. That player is A.J. Brown. The account Brown deleted was not just any account. It was a platform he used for years as a personal microphone, a space where he aired frustrations, responded to critics, celebrated teammates, and on several well-documented occasions, deleted posts that stirred controversy only to later act as if they had never existed. Brown's track record on X was as much a part of his public persona as the routes he ran on the field. For a player with that relationship with the platform to simply close the account on the most expectation-loaded night of this entire offseason is a signal that needs no interpretation. It is a conclusion. The Eagle Times was the first to report the account deletion, at 7:35 in the evening on Sunday, accompanied by the direct message. When players go quiet, something is coming. This is not the behavior of a player who is waiting to see what happens. This is the behavior of a player who already knows what is about to happen. And what is about to happen was confirmed by multiple insiders the same night. Jason Canfora reported that the compensation agreed upon between the Eagles and the Patriots is a first-round pick in the 2028 draft, not the 2027 pick that the Eagles had initially requested and that the Patriots resisted delivering, citing capital risk at a moment when the franchise had not yet confirmed it can sustain the level of elite play needed to be a genuine title favorite. The 2028 pick, which is far enough away to be calculable and close enough to carry real value in the Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean extension negotiations that Roseman needs to execute over the next 2 years. But the detail Canfora added to the report that was most widely shared across social media on Sunday night was the statement from an anonymous general manager who said with a clarity that leaves no room for doubt, "It is getting done. Howie is ready to put this behind him." 4 words. Howie is ready. The language of a man who spent months managing the most complicated negotiation of the offseason, with the patience of someone who knew from the beginning that the right deal would arrive if he waited for the correct financial moment. And that moment has arrived. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated was even more specific in describing the current state of negotiations. Breer said his understanding is that the framework is in place for a trade to be made early this week that will make A.J. Brown a Patriot. And then he added the sentence that every Eagles fan needs to commit to memory to understand the weight of this moment. The exact terms, the details, there are still some things to be worked out. But he believes it would take someone backing out at this point, whether it is the Eagles or the Patriots, for it not to happen. The framework exists. The agreement exists. What remains is management of details, not a decision of principle. On the financial side, the complete picture that motivated all of Roseman's patience is now clear to anyone who followed this process closely. Before June 1st, moving Brown would have cost the franchise $43.5 million in dead cap, absorbed in a single year. A financial blow that would have eliminated virtually all of the maneuvering room for the extensions that defined Philadelphia's defensive future. After June 1st, that number splits into $16.35 million in 2026 and $27.1 million in 2027. An identical total impact, completely different in timing and in practical consequence for the roster-building capacity of the franchise. Brown's deletion of the X account is not just a signal of the imminent trade. It is also the closing of a dynamic that defined the Eagles' behind-the-scenes reality for more than 2 years. Brown was one of the most vocal and most visible social media users of any player in the league during his time in Philadelphia. He used the platform to celebrate, to provoke, to respond to criticism, and to communicate dissatisfactions in ways that created headlines without technically crossing any formal line of conduct. When he deletes that account on the night the entire football world is watching the salary cap clock turn, he is publicly closing the chapter in a way that no press conference could accomplish with the same emotional precision. There is also a practical protective element to this decision that any league observer will recognize immediately. Over the next 24 hours, A.J. Brown's name is going to be in every conversation, every podcast, every analysis program across the country. The debate is going to be massive, it is going to be loud, and it is going to include both celebrations from Patriots fans and the entire emotional spectrum of reactions from Eagles fans who loved what Brown built in Philadelphia, even if the way this chapter ended was painful. Not having an active account on X during that moment is not cowardice. It is wisdom. It is a player who has already processed what is about to happen and who chose not to be present on the platform while the market reacts to the news. For the Eagles as a franchise, the imminent trade represents the conclusion of a process that Roseman managed with a patience that was not always understood by fans while it was happening. The structure of Brown's contract was deliberately built to create exactly this post-June 1st window. The negotiations with the Patriots were conducted with that calendar in mind from the very beginning. And the cap space being freed by Brown's departure is not going into a void. It is going directly toward the extensions of 3 of the most important defenders in this franchise's future, building the next version of a roster capable of competing for the Super Bowl for years to come. For the Philadelphia fans who followed A.J. Brown from the day he arrived via trade from Tennessee in 2022, this moment carries a real emotional weight that goes beyond salary cap figures and draft picks. Brown was one of the most dominant and most physically imposing receivers this franchise has ever had. 2 Super Bowls together, 1 victory, 32 touchdowns across 4 seasons. The pick 6 in Super Bowl 59. Those are the moments that will remain in the memory of any Eagles fan regardless of how the separation happened. With A.J. Brown deleting his X account on the eve of June 1st, Canfora confirming a 2028 first-round pick as compensation, Breer saying the framework is in place, and an anonymous general manager declaring it is getting done and Howie is ready. What is your feeling about this moment? Relief that a complicated chapter is about to be closed. Sadness at watching one of the best receivers in this franchise's recent history walk out the door, or excitement about what the freed cap space will allow Roseman to build? Leave your opinion in the comments. For the Philadelphia fans who followed A.J. Brown from the day he arrived via trade from Tennessee in 2022, this moment carries a real emotional weight that goes beyond salary cap figures and draft picks. Brown was one of the most dominant and most physically imposing receivers this franchise has ever had. 2 Super Bowls together, 1 victory, 32 touchdowns across 4 seasons. The pick 6 in Super Bowl 59. Those are the moments that will remain in the memory of any Eagles fan regardless of how the separation happened. With A.J. Brown deleting his X account on the eve of June 1st, Canfora confirming a 2028 first-round pick as compensation, Breer saying the framework is in place, and an anonymous general manager declaring it is getting done and Howie is ready. What is your feeling about this moment? Relief that a complicated chapter is about to be closed. Sadness at watching one of the best receivers in this franchise's recent history walk out the door, or excitement about what the freed cap space will allow Roseman to build? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later with the latest Eagles news.